The queen finally saw hope. It turned out to be his bodyguard knight Carl Green. The queen called for help from Karzan. Karching pulled out his blood-stained sword and said, "Your Majesty, stop struggling." The queen looked at him in disbelief. A trusted partner. At this time, he betrayed him. The screen comes to the banquet hall. Kim told Haver that something had happened. The two hurried to the queen's room. Jin Xiuhui asked strangely, "Don't you ask me what the matter is?" Haver said calmly, "I also felt an unusual magical aura. What do you need me to do?" Jin Xiuhui definitely said that you need to defeat the appreciation. Haver said lightly, "I know you're not kidding, but please don't be kidding." Jin Xiuhui then remembered. Haver is not yet able to live in seconds. Then he asked in a second place, "Can you hold him back then?" Haver asked if it would be okay for a minute. "It will take at least 2 minutes to refine, to be sure." Haver had a determined look in his eyes. "Run briskly to the wall. Take it in your hand when you dismantle it. Then say it firmly for 3 minutes. Jin Xiuhui replied with the same confidence. That was enough. The two of them sped up and ran to the queen's room. Bodies littered the road. At this moment, the queen is doing her best. Resist Cal's sword attacks. Carl couldn't help but admire the queen's tenacity. Poisoned enough to still be able to hold his heavy sword. The queen asks Carl why he betrayed him. Carl took advantage of the flaws revealed when the queen spoke. A kick on the queen? This comes with a kick of great magic. Hand over the queen's internal organs. During the queen's treat, the zombies fell to the ground in battle. Carl raised his sword as it was about to fall. Sword! Saint's keen senses alerted him to danger behind him. Carl deserves to be the first juggernaut. At the last moment, sideways to dodge the candelabro attack behind you. Then decisively give up, killing the queen. Looking back, a sword is draped in the sun. Haver did everything he could to block the blow. Carl was surprised. Unexpectedly, Haver unraveled his scene with only a candlestick. The sword was glued tightly to the candlestick. The magic in the two of them collided wildly through weapons. Carl is the first juggernaut, but he used this kind of rogue trick. Bullying Haver is young and not very magical. Later, Carl's magic gradually invaded Haver's body. Once, Carl's magic penetrates the heart of his opponent's magic. He will crush the hearts of his opponents with deep magic. Haver tried Aslahan with Aslahan. The mind absorbs Carl's magic. But Carl's magic was like he was locked up. Can't absorb it. Haver knew that he would suffer if he fought harder. Then there was a glint in his eyes. Collide with high-frequency magic with a special move. This is a trick unique to Haver. Common points of contact with candlesticks. Shake at a breakneck speed. The impact sparked. The magic that Carl had invaded Haver's body was bounced back. Then the bamboo platform swept across. Shake Carl's sword away. Carl was surprised. He is well informed. I've never seen this kind of magic used. The battle between the genius swordsman and the veteran swordsman begins. The sword and the candlestick kept colliding. The magic is blowing in and out. Flying sword Jin Xiuhui. Take advantage of the gap to run to the queen who has fallen to the ground. Being too anxious leads to confiding in the truth as a cash cow. Wrong, Your Majesty. The queen was surprised and asked Lloyd what was going on. Later words was blocked by Jin Xiuhui's powerful big hand. Jin Xiuhui covered the queen's sister's beaded lips with one hand. The other hand is pressed on the queen's flat lower abdomen. I use it quickly, out of Aslahan mind to absorb magic and obscenity. Jin Xiuhui, you take advantage of people's danger. Beware of the queen's sister chopping off your head. Why are you covering people's mouths so domineeringly? The queen's sister has been poisoned. Your hand should be placed in the heart position. Soak up the magic. Do you understand the location of the heart? Haver now has no time to condemn Roy Xiaoyang. He's doing his best against Carl. Carl Discovery can't easily defeat his opponents. When time is pressing, prepare to use a special move. Haver is very knowledgeable. When I saw Carl's appearance, I guessed that it was the Dookie realm. This is the strongest trick that a juggernaut can use. At the same time, he knew he couldn't remember. You can't let the other person finish charging. Use this trick. Haver filled the candlestick with magic after that. Throw out the candlestick. Like a magic javelin stabbed at Carl. Carl had no choice but to stop Sulig blocking the candlestick. The temporary evacuation of the Xiuhui led to a lack of stamina. Carl's body was knocked backwards by the force of the machine. Haver jumped up and pounced on the bamboo platform where Dao Fei had returned. Catch the bamboo platform with one hand. The body uses the explosive skill in midair. The menorah burns with a raging fire. Hit Carl on the head. Carl looked at the oncoming flaming sword. Not only did they not panic. Instead, a faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Then he lunged forward and punched Haver. Boom in Haver's lower abdomen. Haver's body was in midair, and there was nowhere to relay. Can't even dodge. Solid received a magic punch. Carl didn't give Haver a chance to breathe. Holding the sword in both hands, it was full of magic power, and then slashed hard. The speed does not decrease after crossing the candlestick. Smash the hard rock ground to smithereens. The sword not only cut off the metal candlestick, it even hit Haver's body hard. Kim repairs favorites. Knowing that Haver's breath was getting weaker and weaker, it may be that there is danger. But he was closing at this time. The key never stops. Toxins in the queen's body. He was constantly being sucked into his body. Jin Xiuhui could only pray silently to Haver in his heart. I believe you. If you lose, we're all going to die here. The commentary in the next episode is even more exciting. Don't forget to check it out. Keep an eye out for this beauty. She didn't know she had been poisoned by a strange thing. Was followed by a lewd man behind him. Throw her down in a room where no one is around. The man wanted to sacrifice himself to help her detoxify. The beauty's body was sore and weak, and she was forced to agree. When she saw the man's antidote. First of all, he was entangled and helpless. Soon it became cold and cruel again. Carl smiled confidently. He knew exactly how heavy this one was. Persuade you to die if you're a sick boy. Carl raised his sword and prepared to take out this opponent, who knows that Haver not only does not step back to defend. Instead, they rushed up to him, and the body moves quickly. The injuries were obviously not as serious as expected. Carl didn't expect Haver to be so desperate. Quickly changed the sword that is ready to stab to a sweep. The longsword used by Carl is a broad-edged sword. It is suitable for gravity chopping of large rivers. But the disadvantages are no less obvious. Close combat is not flexible enough. Haver exploited this weakness to promote luxury. Dodge Carl's sweep. Haver is not a reckless man, because he knew there was a helper hidden on the side. I saw Haver shouting that he was not motivated. Little Budong gritted his teeth, used the strength to feed, wielded the queen's sword, and threw it at Haver. Carl had a good chance to drive him crazy. I didn't expect there to be a little mouse hiding on the side. Haver wields a long sword. The momentum instantly increased dramatically. Then used the explosive skill. The sword erupted with flames. A fireball with explosive energy blasts into your opponent. Carl was stunned by the move. Misjudging your opponent's moves. He didn't have time to dodge. In the blink of an eye, the fireball was already in front of you. Carl could only run his mana. The explosive energy of this move, blasting his entire body away. This trick that fires like a cannon. It's simply unheard of. Just as Carl was thinking about countermeasures, the second fireball came in front of him again. He didn't dare to greet and quickly dodged the attack. Haver Dribuo flew in pursuit, then used multiple blasts in a row. The fireball slammed into Carl like a scattershot. Carl ran fast. Deep attack. I hate that monster-like guy behind me. One step away from solving the queen. It's a pity that it was interrupted by this guy. At this time, Jin Xiuhui wanted to save the queen's sister. Too much poison has been absorbed. The hideous face was crawling with purple earthworms hitting the blood vessels. The queen was lying on the ground and was held down by Kim Xiuhui. The lower abdomen is constantly suctioning. There was an indescribable sensation in the abdomen. He couldn't help but tense his body. An irrepressible sound was released in his throat. He looked at the man in front of him who was desperate for him. Feel the magic flowing. I am well aware of the poison in my body. The magic is sucked away. The queen asked Lloyd curiously, "You're capable of this?" The queen didn't finish her sentence. Was interrupted urgently by Jin Xiuhui. "Please don't talk to me. I couldn't concentrate." The queen nervously said sorry. As soon as the words were spoken, the queen suddenly realized. Definitely can't be held down by this guy. Then his face turned dusty. Said, "You were just in the reprimand." The countdown of the hairs of the golden autumn and summer hurriedly explained. "No, you're just having auditory hallucinations because of a toxin." As soon as the words were finished. Due to mental instability, the magic is not well controlled. I couldn't help but spurt out a mouthful of poisonous blood. He hurriedly caught the falling poisonous blood with his hand. Avoid splashing on the queen's body. This delicate care makes me have to sigh. It's too hard to be a man. The queen was moved. Playful lips. It's just obvious. Forgive this guy for his disrespectful words just now. Looked at Jin Xiuhui's hideous face. The queen began to think worriedly. This guy is so deeply poisoned. Is there a way for him to save himself? Is it to save me? Are you ready to put your life on the line? The flowers bloom in two, one on each branch. When Kim Xiuhui was desperate for the queen's sister. Haver is working hard for Kim Xiuhui. The two fought fiercely all the way to the banquet hall. Carl fled to the banquet hall at the same time. Haver single-handedly guarded the entrance of the hallway. Anyone who wants to get in here. His corpse had to be stepped on. Carl guessed Haver's idea of stalling for time. But he has more deserving tricks to deal with his opponents. Carl then shouted congratulations on his mismatch. They tried to murder. His Majesty will take him down quickly. Soon, a large number of soldiers arrived and surrounded Haver. Then they rushed at him one after another. Haver gritted his teeth in hatred. The soldiers were fooled by Carl, but he couldn't explain it. Haver has decided, no one is allowed to cross over here. So there is no need for explanation. With one click, you can knock a few people in front of you into the air. Then the common is full of magic. Then knock the approaching soldier into the air. Carl stood at the back of the guard. While recovering his strength, he watched Haver's battle. Heart. I can't help but start admiring this young genius. Awe is an elite soldier for everyone. But he was able to knock 3 people away at once. If this guy reaches the realm of the Swordmaster, I guess it would be easy to wipe out a small country. Can't let him continue to grow. He must die here today. Carl was aided by soldiers. Finally completed the condensation of the Dookie sword. The powerful energy emitted by the sword distorts the space around it like an illusion. Haver was dusted in his heart, watching the momentum of Carl wielding the Dookie sword. He knew he couldn't take this trick. Carl swept the Dookie ship in his palm lightly. Powerful energy is fan-shaped slash. To the young knight who is persistent and refuses to retreat. The sharp sword chi tore through the space in front of him. No matter within the reach of the sword chi can be stopped. Haver, in the face of this irresistible destructive force, all you can do is lift the common running mana. Hold your body tightly. Then the whole body was blasted out. Carl holds the sword in one hand. Slowly walk into the dilapidated total. Haver was bruised all over his body. On one's last legs. The common one used by the queen is definitely the best. But at this time, there was only one handle left. Sadly by Haver's side. See St. Carl like a god of death. Hold the power to harvest life. Step by step into this rooftop worthy of his admiration. The footsteps of Sword River's death drew closer. But Haver couldn't even move a finger. Kim Xiuhui finally took the queen. Toxins in the body are absorbed. He gritted his teeth and stood up. Turn around and just take 2 steps. I couldn't help but spew out a mouthful of black, poisonous blood. The queen's body was still very weak, but anxiously asked, "How are you?" "You concentrate your magic on one arm. I'll help you." Jin Xiuhui understood in his heart when he heard the queen's words. His method. It must be as it is written in the novel. Chop off this arm. Because in the novel, that's what the queen did to herself. He didn't want to lose an arm. Jin Xiuhui grabbed the dinner knife on the ground, diagonally pointing upwards. He can't do that much anymore. Saving your life matters. Then use the demolition skill. The table knife glows purple. A purple fireball from the hand. Dinner knives squirt out. A powerful ball of energy blasted through the dome of the palace. In the darkness of the night, the palace is like a brilliant firework. Across the sky of the royal capital. See here, I finally knew. Why didn't Jin Xiuhui repair the palace? There are friends who know to talk in the common area. The commentary in the next episode is even more exciting. Don't forget to check it out. This man is already on the verge of death. Powerful opponents are as impassable as mountains. When the opponent's blade pierces his body, blood spurted out. Just because of one sentence, he turned defeat into victory. The new practice uses the blast skill. Spews out a huge purple fireball from the drama skin, blasted through the dome of the palace. Carl Ben wanted to make a sword, deal with the scarred haver, but I was attracted by this huge roar, accompanied by the queen for many years. Except for the one who doesn't know the queen. Everything else is clear. The queen has been poisoned. It is not possible to cause such an explosion. It must have been Lloyd's doing. At this point, Haver, who was badly injured, struggled to his feet. Kimmy holding the broken sword in his hand. Again in front of Carl. Again and again. Things today are out of control. Carl gritted his teeth. Look at the monster-like guy in front of you. Viciously thought. What is this guy's body made of? After being hit by the Dookie sword, he can still stand up. Haver's consciousness was blurred. The broken sword in his hand was so heavy for him. To be able to hold it is already exhausting all power. Even if it's a 3-year-old, can easily push him down. But he, still staring at Carl in front of him with a sharp gaze. Point the broken sword at this impassable mountain. Even if you will die here in the next second, and fall before him. Just because he is the young master's guard knight. Just because of one of his promises. Haver recalls their journey to the royal capital. One night around the campfire at camp. Haver looked at the dancing flames in front of him. I blamed myself for saying that I was too unkind from beginning to end. This sentence with no beginning and no end confused Jin Xiuhui. Haver then blamed himself. A knight of the young master's guard. But he left his obligations behind. Run and take out the best titans. I'm disappointed to see that the young master didn't come. It's all because I only want to rely on the young master in my heart. As usual, so accustomed to nature. This is a fragile spirit and a strength that is far from sufficient. Even negligence in their own tasks. As a knight, I don't know enough at all. Actually, at the level of Haver. Simply hard training, swordsmanship, and magic. It's hard to do. The realm is heavy. What he needs is mind cultivation. Only the heart is firm and spotless. He can launch the indomitable sword. That is the highest level of sword cultivation, and the sword heart is smart. Ask yourself, extinguish the demons in your heart. It can also turn the bumpy road of the sword master into a frank. Jin Xiuhui sighed. It doesn't matter what I thought was the matter. You don't have to take this kind of thing to heart. You've been lightened for 6 months anyway. Look at Jin Xiuhui's demonic expression. Prepare not to pay wages for half a year. The face is still so light and breezy. Haver's self-reproachful eyes instantly turned into pain. S eyes stared at the miser in front of him. I have forgotten to blame myself and want to strangle him instead. For a while, except for the sound of the bonfire, there were no other winds for 4 weeks. The peace between the two was shattered by Haver's plea. Is it okay for 3 months? Do you think I'll be so generous? You won't. So what else do you ask? I'm sorry. This little episode made Haver feel less comfortable. He turned the campfire and said, I swear to you, I am a sword that guards the young master. Never miss this task again. Jin Xiuhui joked that you were turning over the fire. While saying such things, do you find it credible? Haver went on to say that it doesn't matter if you don't believe it. I will keep this vow. In fact, Jin Xiuhui knew well in his heart that Haver's self-blame. The purpose of deducting wages. It is also to divert attention with something else. It's like apologizing to your girlfriend. The best way to do this is not to say sorry. Instead, take him to buy a bag. Haver continued, I know that your realm has reached 30,000. I need to be stronger than you. Can be regarded as your guardian knight. It looks like I need to become a builder within this year. Trim the unnatural eyelids of a river. How can you put such a hurtful word to hear? It's like eating and drinking. It's wonderful that you can't brag about it. Jin Xiuhui thought for a while. It seems that something has been decided. Reach out and pick up a branch from the ground. And then he said to himself, when humans are cultivating magical hearts, there are limits. Theoretically, even if you study it for hundreds of years, it will stop at some stage. Then why can a person become a sword master? I feel like that huge magic. It doesn't just need to be cultivated. Otherwise, the groping pig's feet have interrupted this explanation. This made Jin Xiuhui very irritable. Haver said firmly, I don't want to use the young master's power this time. Instead, break through on your own. I don't want to rely on Master Lloyd anymore. It is common to face Carl with a vindictive spirit. Haver rushed forward as if he were dead. Blood is spraying. Sword pierced Haver's body without resistance. The surging fighting spirit came out through the iron. Blow up the hard rocky floor of the hallway. Haver, in the usual moment of stabbing into the body, narrowly avoided the vital point of the heart, and used Aslahan star magic to mobilize mana. The mana of the chain disintegrates the mana that has invaded the body. Carl said indifferently, You've really surprised me. Those who were pierced by the Dookie sword were all shattered and disappeared. You are condensing all the magic in a flash. Strengthens the body. You're really funny with these little tricks, but I'm not in the mood to appreciate it now. So you can die. Then the vindictive spirit was triggered. Cruelly burned Haver's body. Blazing flames. Burned every drop of blood in Haver's body. The wails of pain did nothing to alleviate his pain. Haver suddenly reached out and grabbed Carl. Wojia means, the eyes are sharp and fierce, and look at the slut. A little bit will be the common insertion deeper. This act of self-harm frightened Carl. Fear that Haver has a more outlandish trick. Haver did so for a purpose, because he wants to feel the vindictiveness closer, even closer to a centimeter. Haver felt the flow of vindictive energy from the pointed wound, then work backwards to explore the path of Carl's vindictiveness, from the common to his wrists, and then to his heart, finally to his magical heart. When Haver explores vindictiveness, when the path arrives here, suddenly stomp on the ground. The body flies backwards, successfully broke away from Tal's vindictive realm. Then he slammed into the wall and stopped. After the body crashed to the ground, there was no longer life. Carl quietly felt the state of this opponent. Make sure he has no breath and no magic flowing. Then I remembered that there were still important things to do. That's to kill the queen. But when he had just taken 2 steps, behind him, Haver stood up stubbornly again. Carl couldn't believe that this guy was still human. Haver Dandanon said, I finally understood what the magic of Juggernaut was. Haver then raised his hand to break the sword. Cover the sword with a green fighting spirit full of life. He is like a king in the world. Swore an oath of majesty. Haver finally advanced to the Juggernaut. Has his own fighting sword. Carl was stunned by the incredible. Looked at the vindictive family in front of him in disbelief. Haver condensed all his energy in the fighting ship. Then he slammed his sword at Carl. Tal hastily responded and swept out of the season. Gaslight. This was already all the power he could temporarily gather. Two energies meet. The energy of the Tal is like the Dawn Arm. Blocking cars is like a Pidu. Sweat. In an instant, the red energy of the green energy filament. The storm swept through Carl's body. Blood splattered out. The left hand in which he held the piece left him. Carl fell in the blood and wailed. His right hand covered the wound that was still spurting blood. Frightened to see the huge ditch river on the ground being exhibited. Hordes of soldiers swarmed in. He shouted to the captain. The soldiers came to Carl's side. Look through the helmet gap and look in front of you to defeat the captain. I saw Haver holding a fighting sword, like a blood-stained god of war in the middle of the hallway. He proudly said to the soldiers, just let the horses come, as long as you can withstand the sword of the juggernaut. The commentary in the next episode is even more exciting. Don't forget to check it out. The man looked at the beautiful woman in front of him. Smiled lewdly. Just because. Huge benefits are about to be reaped from the beauty body. The beauty thinks of the sacrifice that is about to be made. First, he was angry and forced to say. Then there was a faint helplessness in my heart. I had to give up resisting. Silently bears what men want. In the end, he collapsed on the man's body with no power. Jin Xiuhui squirted out the poison in his body. Mana runs out, lying unconscious on the ground. The queen called anxiously, but he never woke up. Lingji's soft clothes tightly grasped Jin Xiuhui's hand. Who would have thought? The Iron Fist Queen's long-held sword-holding hands. It is as tender as the tip of a new bamboo shoot after the rain. The queen felt the magic that dried up in Kim Xiuhui's body, roaring and saying, I know you can absorb magic. My magic is for you. Jin Xiuhui heard an anxious call. Slowly open your eyes. Look at the beautiful queen in front of you. Suddenly, an evil smile appeared on his face. The queen was anxiously holding Jin Xiuhui's hand. But see his evil expression. It's like a secret hidden in my heart is suddenly revealed. It is like the dignity of the emperor being provoked. Suddenly, he was angry. Brutally gave this hateful guy a violent blow. Jin Xiuhui was stunned. I didn't do anything. Originally, my head was still a little dizzy. But I was scared and completely sober. Looked at the queen wrongly. The beautiful queen was also confused. I had a feeling of shame and indignation just now. Subconsciously hit him. How can this be explained? Jin Xiuhui asked His Majesty strangely. Why did you hit me all of a sudden? The queen was speechless for a long time. Eyes drift and casually make up nonsense. I don't know why. See your face. My fist moved on its own. The queen herself didn't realize it. His imperial dignity was lost in this moment. He even explained his mistakes to his courtiers. These two are so funny. A gallant blames the king. The other was distraught and admitted his mistakes. In fact, the queen can scold loudly. Nothing is explained. A woman's mind is too hard to guess. In fact, the queen really wronged Jin Xiuhui. Just now, Jin Xiuhui slowly opened his eyes from the coma. A system prompt appears suddenly. You survived the deadly poison. The configuration skill of the open heart of magic is invincible. Resistant to all toxins. Rapid charging. When the mana is depleted, it absorbs a large amount of mana from the surrounding area. This skill is awesome. The system finally made a human being. This is Jin Xiuhui's exposure. The source of evil sin for the evil smile. The queen deserves to be a queen. Soon the distracting thoughts in my mind were swept away. Swift Jin Xiuhui said, Can you get up? Jin Xiuhui tried but failed. The mana is depleted and the body cannot move. He was in a hurry and wanted to hurry up and help Haver. Immediately, decisively use the new skill to quickly recharge. Even if you expose your skills in front of the queen. He couldn't wait a moment. The surrounding magic slowly moved towards Jin Xiuhui. How gathered, and his entire body glowed blue. The queen looked at this strange phenomenon with curiosity. The heart of mana and the ring of mana are at full power, running fast. The queen was shocked to feel her magic. Uncontrolled, out-of-body discharge. The magic around them poured in like a red Ryu. Refine your body. The pale blue glow gradually became dazzling. All the substances in the queen's bedchamber, all of them have been drained of their source of magic. This powerful suction force made it impossible for the queen to resist. If it continues, definitely going to be sucked dry by this guy. The queen greatness called out to Lloyd, but he was like a dead man. There was no reaction at all. The queen only led Ju-chan to make up her mind to give it to you. Just take it. I'll hold on until you're satisfied. Kim Xiuhui did not know the queen's determination. He couldn't even control his body anymore. The beautiful queen is getting weaker and more painful. Jin Xiuhui didn't look like he was awake at all. A storm of magic rages through the room. For the queen, every second is so tormenting. Finally, this shameless bastard is thinned. Satisfied, he opened his eyes. All the substances in the room lost the color of life. It's like going through the baptism of time, turning into dust in the long river of history. The system prompts the heart of mana to be upgraded to beginner insight, a special configuration skill that opens up the heart of mana, the realm of selflessness. When you transform into a berserk within 60 seconds. In this mode, the following 4 attributes are increased by 200%. It can only be used once a day. Jin Xiuhui was hung up by this. Playing Lai's skills were shocked, but he didn't have time to think deeply, because Haver is fighting alone against Sword St. Carl. He had to hurry up and help. When he saw the haggard appearance of the beautiful queen, surprised, he couldn't close his mouth. It must be that I unconsciously sucked too much, caused the queen's sister's body to be unbearable. Then he looked in shock at the gloom around him. It feels like just a breath. Can turn the dormitory into ashes. Make up your mind. These seconds are no longer needed until the last resort. At this time, the queen suddenly said weakly, I'll ask you for details later. The most important thing now is to catch Carl. Can you carry me behind my back? I wasn't immediately forced by the queen to ask about skills. Jin Xiuhui breathed a long sigh of relief and escaped for the time being, while admiring the queen's simplicity in his heart, while quickly putting on his own clothes for the queen, then kneel and crouch on the ground. His hands were dragged on his lips, and he happily promised that he could. It's too much of a villain's honor. Jin Xiuhui's posture is really enviable. Isn't this the reason for the Phoenix? The commentary in the next episode is even more exciting. Don't forget to check it out. Beauty on the Carpet by Man. Toss for an hour. The whole body is sore, weak, and it is difficult to move the fingers. After the man was finished, he was in a state of shock. Completely forget the gentleness that clings to the back. Jin Xiuhui tightly wrapped his hands around the base of the queen's thighs. Say, Your Majesty, please call the police line. Kim, fix your virtuous pig hands. Don't touch them. Beware of the queen's sister cutting him down. The queen shyly hugged her hands tightly. The whole body was attached to Jin Xiuhui's back, uncontrollably pounding of the heart. Jin Xiuhui had a faint virgin fragrance in his nose. The slight ripple in his heart was immediately suppressed by him. South of this nerd's home. Now he only has his good brother Havel in his heart. Brothers are like brothers. I can only forget about it for the time being. The gentleness that clings to the back condenses the magic. Legs run in the dark. He shouted in his heart, Haver wait for me. Your eldest brother will be here soon. The beautiful queen was sore and limp. The whole cheek was pressed against Jin Xiuhui's back. He knows very well how strong Carl is. Even how talented Haver is. Definitely not Carl's opponent either. Today's Wang Guozhong. Only you can work with the card. You must hurry up and gather your magic in the first battle. Restore strength. When the two turn the hallway, come to the shattered battlefield. Shocked at the scene in front of him, If Haber looked back, it will also be a shocking scene. Lao Tzu fought to the death in front. You two are merry in the back. I can't walk anymore, and I have to carry it. Haber was covered in scars and wielded a giant green lightsaber, towering like the god of war at the entrance of the banquet hall. A husband is an official, and no one can open it. Haber just stood quietly and leisurely. The hall was crowded with hordes of soldiers, but none of them dared to take a step forward to sustain themselves. The two of them didn't expect this kind of scene to break their heads. Haber is a sword of fighting spirit. It glows green. The shape of the sword is clear and condensed. Just reach the realm of the sword master. It's such a joke. This amazed the queen, who was a sword master. Carl fell to the blood and wailed in pain. There is a clear loss of combat effectiveness. The queen immediately ordered the soldiers to lay down their arms. In front of everyone, Carl was pointed out to be rebellious. It's low. The two of them desperately protected him in order to finally get out of danger. Facing the queen's praise, Haber was, as usual, indifferent, glancing at the queen coldly. Jin Xiuhui doesn't care. He just wanted to get the money for the project as soon as possible. Jin Xiuhui's brain is really worrying. The joy of being the first white rich beauty in the kingdom. Isn't it more important than the project money? The queen then shouted, "You all have to be courteous to both heroes. I'm going to investigate everyone in the ballroom today. This is an investigation into the safety of the royal family. All must cooperate with the instrument center." Jin Xiuhui said to Haber in disbelief, "Do you really have preconceived notions?" Haber said yes lightly. "Pretty much. Is there anything strange about it?" Finishing is fast. Driven crazy by this tone that is always unfazed. Hate then said, "Your guy's tone makes me feel like an idiot. You say what to do." Haber didn't bother to pester with him. Turned around and said, "Since Master Lloyd often encounters dangerous things, I have to improve my strength to be able to do a good escort mission." Jin Xiuhui was good to see that Haber was safe and sound. Other things don't matter. The system prompts suddenly. Tonight was another eye-catching attack. Your attacks and contributions have reached the hidden condition. Today the system suddenly gave a bunch of rewards. Jin Xiuhui was surprised. The other party, so the brain activates the praise system. Your achievements will form various titles. Holding a title will give you additional skills. Quantitative praise points are provided to you every month. The following praise has been obtained. Jin Xiuhui. Looking at the title in front of him, one is more strange than the other. I think the kid of the system is too irresponsible. You can't put the name of the title. Doesn't it sound better? He had just thought of this. System prompts. The praise is adjusted according to the person's appearance. Jin Xiuhui scolded in his heart. Do you dare to corpse yourself? Believe it or not, Lao Tzu beat you to death. Jin Xiuhui had no choice but to be forced to take over. Start researching the praise skill. Jin Xiuhui ordered the lobster from the Cremo production area. I look at the introduction of the contents in detail. Includes the praise zone. Praise the term. Kudos to the CP provided. And an informative compliment. Related notes. Finally, see the effect of praise. According to the description of this effect, when you fight the behemoths in the future, he's going to get a power stick. He was stunned by the outrageously strong buff. Please fix your care. The system gives you such awesome skills. You'll definitely have to be arranged later. There will be a great treasure waiting for you that you cannot surpass. When you see that CP is 0, curious about how this CP works. At the same time, think of the system. Most of them won't tell him. At this time, the system suddenly popped up a prompt box to tease him. Jin Xiuhui could only beg for mercy. But in exchange for the system is difficult. Jin Xiuhui begged bitterly. Until now is not the time to pretend. Haber looked at the young master as if he had hit an evil spirit. Become so humble. He was always indifferent, and he began to be curious. The system is ridiculed. Playing with this guy has almost finally come up with an answer. Can be used. Absolute rights contrary to the laws of the world. Spoilers can be used. Jin Xiuhui was completely stunned by this result. The commentary in the next episode is even more exciting. Don't forget to check it out. The beautiful queen leaned limply against the man's back. Just because. Two groping hands kept harassing the base of his thighs. When the two met a man's good brother, the beautiful queen hides half of her flushed face shyly. Look at the person in front of you. The back of a parrot blocking thousands of troops. The heart is uncontrollable like a deer crashing. The next day, the beautiful queen summoned the handsome knight. Legs tightened up to ask the handsome knight from him. The handsome guy has a heart and swears to die. But the beautiful queen loves this taste. There's a sense of challenge. It's a bit unbearable not to brag about it. Let's get to the main text. Jin Xiuhui, stretched out comfortably, said lazily to Zhu Liang, who was standing aside, "Cooperate with the investigation for a night." "I'm so tired," Julian asked. "Have you investigated the person behind Carl?" Jin Xiuhui said, while straightening his hair. "There are no results yet. It is being used on the person who exchanges the code with Carl." Confession of magic. But this man was blessed with an enchantment. Didn't get any useful information. It seems that the assassination plan was very secretive. The strength of the organization behind it can be imagined. Now the royal capital is under full martial law. But I can't go home, so I have to stay here. Jin Xiuhui was very tired. In his heart, he silently recalled the plot of the novel. The attempted assassination of the king is not described in detail. Writing now the plot is 3 years in advance. The future is even more difficult to say. What helped me the most was future intelligence. Now the plot has changed so much. Intelligence can basically be said to be null and void. Fortunately, new abilities were acquired in time. I don't know about this play. How much spoilers help with the section? At this time, Julian suddenly asked where Haver had gone. Is it still under investigation? Kim replied that His Majesty was personally summoning him, because he became a juggernaut. Julian was still waiting for his brother's joke. Suddenly taken aback, shouted in surprise. Sword Saint Jin Xiuhui pointed to his head. "So what's going on in your head? Didn't I say Haver caught Carl?" "It turns out that you don't understand at all," Julian Ono said. "I thought he had captured Carl with the guards." Jin Xiuhui reluctantly said that he had reached the realm of the Sword Saint. It's no longer possible to defeat it by having a lot of people. It is useless for ordinary people to come as much as they want. Julian then asked nervously, "Will Haver leave us?" Jin Xiuhui squinted at his stupid younger brother. Helplessly, "You don't know Haver. You two grew up together. Peeing every day is farther than who pees. How could you think that? The flowers bloom in two, one on each branch. In the solemn palace hall, the queen sits high on a throne that symbolizes the emperor, crossed Erlang's legs, examining Haver, who was kneeling in front of him. It seems that the queen is in a good mood." The queen pursed her lips. Faintly said Haver Aslahan, "You are a talented person. He has unprecedented swordsmanship strength. Your elastic fighting sword is an undocumented innovation. Now in awe of the position of the captain of the empty seat generation. I command you, from now on, as a captain in awe, closely guarded by my left and right." Haver savored the wording, said lightly, "Your Majesty. I'm sorry. I'm Arku, Knight of Baron Sfrontrow. Thank you for your understanding. I couldn't leave the Baron's side. The Queen has always ruled with an iron fist. Say yes." Being confronted in front of him made him a little annoyed. Tightly picked up the playful Zhu-chan. "I thought about that bastard with hatred in my heart. Take advantage of the weakness of your whole body. Stuck on yourself and taking advantage of it. Sooner or later, those groping pig hands will be confiscated for him. Now even his guards and knights are fighting against each other. Didn't I lose to my grandmother's house? Come to think of it, the queen posed as a royal sister. To put it lightly, Wei Kang's order is like a rebellion. You have to think about the cost behind this. Haver fell silent, but soon said with sad eyes, "Then I hope your majesty will allow me to write a parting letter to the Baron." Haver, who has always been indifferent and does not like to say much, "Declare your wish so." It has been shown that he will not give in. Determination to die willingly. The queen's hand holds a fragrant cheek. Said lightly, "You and that bastard guy from Lloyd. Let's discuss it. They all didn't want to stay, but they all had to go home. Aren't you afraid that I'll cut you down in a fit of rage?" Haver replied decisively, "Please forgive me for my rudeness." The beautiful queen was slightly angry. A fin contemplation. I suffered a big loss, and there was no benefit at all. Both of them are talented and disobedient. Haver has shown that scheming is not much to say. There is no Poland in my heart. Eyes are resolute and waiting for a choice. For a moment, the palace fell silent. Soon, the queen's calm voice sounded, breaking the bottleneck. "Go back, I respect your wishes." Haver faintly thanked Lord Ron. A sigh of relief came out of my heart. Finally crossed the ghost gate. This is the end of this strong buying and selling transaction. Haver is a supernatural talent, but all such people have their pride. And Ning Zhou is uneasy. It's not a threat to life at all, not to mention Haver, the grace of pure food by nature. Picture of the Baron's life-saving and nurturing grace. Already let him put the man. The county is his home, especially Haver, who is sanctified by swordsmanship. Have a heart like a mirror in a spotless realm. He can swing the indomitable sword. Once the heart is sad, you can't do things according to your heart. His mood will plummet. There is the strength of the juggernaut, but he can't use an otherworldly sword. Haver is no longer Haver. In fact, the queen wants to accept talents like master and servant. His entry point, it shouldn't be Haver and Jin Xiuhui. One of these two people is greedy for money and is taken into custody. If you don't get whipped, you don't work. The other is outstanding, arrogant, and unyielding. The blade can be faced indifferently when it is tightened. The queen has supreme power and glory. All he had to do was take the Baroness and Duchess of Frontrau into custody. Aren't these two obedient? Baroness is the key to the big family of their territory. With the wisdom of the beautiful queen, he had long understood these means. It's just that I don't want to use political tricks to sway the two. He couldn't say why. Maybe somewhere in the back of my heart. Stubbornness as a beautiful woman. He wants to go through his charm more. Let the two be willing to accompany him. The commentary in the next episode is even more exciting. Don't forget to check it out. The beautiful woman is stuck in the waist of a man's groping pig hand. But he was powerless to resist and could only collapse on the other party's shoulder. Beauty doesn't know that the nightmare has just begun. The man has just acquired more obscene, perverted skills. The first skill, a man can force a beautiful woman to believe in him unconditionally. The second skill, men do certain things when you can be as brave as a teacher. The third skill, even if it is broken by idle people, men can also force insectivists not to meddle. The three skills work together seamlessly. A faint cloud of smoke obscured the bright moonlight. Jin Xiuhui was lying alone on the lawn of the prince's garden. Study the skills that come with other praises. The first is a snapping fracture of the whole body. Gain the territory of Frontrau, the absolute obedience of the inhabitants. And then there's the fact that you're waiting to be squeezed by the orcs. Can use the orcs' roar. Next up is the king of Masantano Bibi. Gain the absolute performance of King Elishika. See here. Jin Xiuhui smiled evilly. This skill is too good. I'll do anything to Sister Queen in the future. Hey, anything. The Queen's sister will think I'm a good person. And those hostile politicians don't want to be framed. The clouds and smoke flow with the wind. The moonlight sprinkled on the ground like water. A dialogue box suddenly popped up in front of Jin Xiuhui. The full moon illuminates the night sky. CP is provided based on the current 5 praises. There are only 22 CP points at the moment. It turns out that today is the day of payroll. Jin Xiuhui watched the salary arrive. Then I started to study and finish the spoilers. CP can be consumed by consuming it. Peek at the end scene of the subsequent plot. Consume 20 CP at a time. Do you want to use it, please? Jin Xiuhui fantasizes about a bright future. The debt of the territory is about to be paid off. He will soon be able to live an idle life. Can't wait to click OK. In an instant, it was pitch black. It's like a movie theater with the lights off. Moviegoers wait for the big screen to be released. Jin Xiuhui was alone in this silent darkness. There is some damage to the heart, humbly calling for the big brother of the system. Suddenly, a raging fire erupted all around. Although you can't feel the high temperature of baking. But the fire burned. The sound of burning pipa kept coming to my ears. Jin Xiuhui walked forward and looked around. It was determined that this was the barony of Flantrao. But the surrounding buildings are dilapidated, and the mutilated corpses everywhere. Let him realize that something is wrong. Jin Xiuhui ran forward desperately. Loud inquiry system. System, what's going on? Is it really going to be like this? Can't you hear me? It's a pity that I never get the memories of the system. Suddenly, he saw something unbelievable. He himself is regular, in front of a couple who are broken and inhuman. The couple would hug each other tightly until death. Reluctance to separate. The two of them seem to have been brutally eaten. There is no human form at all. But Jin Xiuhui recognized it as a baroness at a glance. He himself was weeping bitterly. Grief-stricken, self-inflicted. If I come a little earlier. I'm sorry I couldn't protect anyone. I'm sorry for the big fire dog system that Jin Xiuhui was angry about. You get out of here. What's going on with this bullshit ending? There was a terrifying buzz behind him. Jin Xiuhui leaned behind him viciously. I saw an endless stream of insects all over the sky. It was overwhelming and covered the entire territory. The commentary in the next episode is even more exciting. Don't forget to check it out. This swordsman can kill 1,000 people with a single sword. He alone could easily destroy a nation. But when he just returned home, he was wiped out by the enemy. Suddenly changed, he became a demon. Endless insects are flying closer and closer. It was overwhelming and covered the entire territory. Jin Xiuhui finally saw the appearance of the insect clearly. It turned out to be a huge flying yellow. The mouth is covered with hideous fangs. The abdomen shimmered with the blood of hunger and greed. Where you pass, there is no grass, no chickens and dogs are left. Haver walks step by step. The feet are calm and tragic. At the same time as passing by Kim Xiuhui, has condensed the fighting spirit of the whole body. It is common to cover elastic fighting chi just after it is unsheathed. Form a green, giant fighting lightsaber. Haver swung the fighting spirit sword in his hand fiercely. The fighting energy came out of the person and slashed towards Chong Yun in the air. An enraged Haver quickly re-exhibited his opinion. The two Do Chi energies are connected from end to end. Tear a large cross in the clouds. Haver's sanity has been completely occupied by grief. He has always been indifferent, and he has never been so crazy and irritable. He did his best to wave his opinion again. All the fighting chi that had just been condensed in the body, compressed by Haver in 3 pieces. Each piece is a remembrance of the Baroness. Each one of them is beyond his remorse. Each one was as painful as the blood of the heart. The third huge Do Chi energy. Catch up with the first 2. Tear a huge hole in the overwhelming heavy clouds. But in terms of destructive power, it is possible to destroy one mountain. Fighting energy killed thousands of flying yellow crowns. Jin Xiuhui looked at the proud mother-in-law in front of him. But my heart grew heavier and heavier. It's like a cannon hitting mosquitoes. When there is nowhere to be powerful. Soon his fears became reality. The dense flying yellow around them gathered into a group again. like a rushing torrent surging out. It's just a small part of the flying yellow group. However, in the blink of an eye, he was wrapped like a ball of worms. Jin Xiuhui opened her eyes suddenly. Ended this nightmare giant. He gasped like an oxygen-deprived fish. The chest rises and falls violently like a pulling bellows. The cold sweat on his face flowed uncontrollably. Trembling, inquiring system. Is what I just saw really going to happen? The system was silent for a moment. Maybe it's the skepticism that makes him unhappy. Then an answer that is not an answer is given. Let Jin Xiuhui decide for himself whether to believe it or not. In fact, Jin Xiuhui is very clear about the temper of the system, although this bastard usually teases himself all the time. But it's still very reliable at critical times. Always when you encounter difficulties that you can't solve. Give help and support. That question just now. It's more about relieving the inner depression. He's pretty sure that spoilers will turn out to be true. The system also understands Jin Xiuhui's thoughts, so it doesn't give much explanation. He recalls what he cried in spoilers. If I had come a little earlier. Jin Xiuhui rushed to the palace without stopping, just to try to get that early time. He knew the reason for the appearance of the flying yellow group, because this disaster is mentioned in the novel. When Jin Xiuhui met the beautiful queen. The beautiful queen is burying her head in correcting documents. It can be seen from the cool dress of the queen's sister. She's hot, 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 hot. Guys, don't think crookedly. The Maharaja has had a lot of bad things happen lately. Whoever you put on it will be irritable. The heat produced by irritability is refined, and the heart is finally handed over tens of thousands of fans. Still try to make yourself appear as smooth as possible. He told the queen that the whole Kramer was in disarray. The military needs to be dispatched to deal with this. Because of the enemy country of Asfahan, I want to cause a monster outplay effect. In order to consume the strategy of the kingdom of Masantano, they sent troops, defeat the monsters of the wasteland on the Donggu border, drive monsters out of their habitat. These monsters can only be pulled west. Loot the living space of monsters farther west. In this way, 1,000 layers of wax were stirred up for a while. The vision pattern of the original wilderness monster is broken. A domino effect is formed. Eventually, it affected the Cremo region of our country. Half of this information comes from scenes in the novel. The other half is Jin Xiuhui's guess based on experience. Because this incident was supposed to happen 3 years later. Now it's much earlier. The gathering of the army of Ajuhans in the eastern wilderness. The queen has known for a long time, even anxious about this matter. The event is detailed in the video commentary of episode 49. The queen, according to Jin Xiuhui's report, roughly guessed that the thing is likely to be true. But as a king, he thinks deeper. Compared to the chaos of a region, he values the firm grip of the regime more than anything else. The queen curled her lips and asked Lloyd lightly, "How did you know Asfahanding wanted to be intentional?" The queen's tone was calm, but straight to the heart of the matter. The implication of the question is obvious. Is it so easy to dispatch troops? He needs hard evidence, and it will reveal another layer of profound meaning. Jin Xiuhui was asked to stay Lele for a long time. I can't say a complete sentence. His brain raced to find the words and make up the story. At this time, the queen frowned slightly. Seriously, you're hiding too much from me. Compared to the sound of the judicial shouting, I feel even more pitiful for you. That's another layer of what the queen means. He needs trust and control. Anyone who has just experienced betrayal will strengthen the inner defense. How much more is the king of an empire? How should Jin Xiuhui respond to this acute question? The commentary in the next episode is even more exciting. Don't forget to check it out. A lewd man breaks into a beautiful woman's room late at night. Make unreasonable demands on beautiful women. The beauty was originally very indignant, but after the man used shameless means, willingly satisfied the other party. Facing the queen's sharp questions that hit the core, Jin Xiuhui knew that he couldn't escape this hurdle. In a hurry, the wisdom is to organize the wording. Get ready to tell the queen the story he just made. Jin Xiuhui said respectfully, Chun Sheng. The villain is by chance. Established a blood alliance with a wild orcs gang's lair. It was a carrier pigeon they sent me. Notify me that this happened. And I could detect Carl's assassination intentions. It's because I saw Carl. And the chief attendant passed a delicate letter. They also stared at each other very lingeringly. I guess the two are in love. I saw them both leave and go to a place where no one was. I followed quietly. I wanted to watch a good love movie. As a result, the incident was witnessed. There's also about me absorbing magic. Something that makes a mess around us. As His Majesty sees. My guardian knight Haver. He is an unprecedented genius. I grew up with him. I learned the art of amulet from him. And I'm also half a rooftop. So the learning is not bad. The queen listened to Jin Xiuhui's gushing statements. There are many doubts in my heart, although the reasons are quite reasonable. But it always feels like this bastard is a temporary trap. The beautiful queen frowned slightly and looked at Jin Xiuhui. His gaze was like that of a bastard in front of two sharp swords. Arms folded around chest in silent contemplation. Jin Xiuhui didn't dare to say a word more, for fear of arousing the queen's suspicion. The figure is blind and spine back, waiting for the queen's answer. The queen's brow tightened. Obviously did not believe in Jin Xiuhui's explanation. Just when he was ready to teach this guy a lesson, the system suddenly prompts that the sending effect is activated. Masantano is humble. I have the absolute trust of King Ilihika. At this moment, Jin Xiuhui does anything. The queen's sister believes unconditionally. Combined with the other two skills, it is simply a miracle. Gambling Meet Episode 55 video. The last explanation for what was falsely accused. Leave him alone. It doesn't matter at all. The queen herself doesn't know why. Just now it's all heavy. Vanished in an instant. Suddenly, how to look at the refinement and how pleasing to the eye. Wanted to satisfy any unreasonable demands of this bastard. Quickly calm down, close your eyes, and say okay. Then send my direct army. 500 white lancers and 50 magicians. The army is in your command. Jin Xiuhui was secretly happy in his heart. Not only did he have to go to the army, but he even returned it to the magician. And let yourself be in command. He hurriedly thanked the queen for her kindness. The queen regains her majesty. Lightly said, don't worry. Thank you for being so smart, you should understand. I would believe an unsubstantiated speculation. Lending so many troops for nothing. Jin Xiuhui heard the meaning of the queen's words. Hurry up and reassure the queen. I know that there is no such thing as a cheap one. If you succeed in stopping the monster's attack this time, I will convey it to everyone. All predictions and judgments are His Majesty's will. May you re-establish your royal authority. The beautiful queen was pleased with this answer. Look at this smart guy in front of you. The more I look at it, the more I like it. The more you look at it, the more pleasing it is to the eye. I don't understand it myself. Why so willing to believe him? He didn't know Jin Xiuhui's military abilities. But the army was handed over to him anyway. After getting the queen's permission, Jin Xiuhui said goodbye to the queen's sister, with the outside of the royal palace. The long-awaited have a rendezvous. The sound of horses' hooves was accompanied by smoke and dust. The people of Kar rushed to the barony's realm for a moment. The horses are galloping. Haver asked why he was in a hurry to return, refine, and explain a few words casually. As a result, the wind blew and changed the tone. He himself couldn't understand what was being said, but the genius Haver could fully understand. A handsome guy is to be handsome all the time, except for the beauty of the whole thing. Be the best in any other field. The new fix put the story just made. I moved over and said it again, in order to be able to rush back in the shortest possible time. The two left the safety of the tomb, walk in a straight line through the jungle. Jin Xiuhui knows that Haver is strong now. It is not a problem for one person to destroy a small country. But this time the opponent is Fei Huang-kun. They do it to fill their stomachs. For Han, he rushed to the front of him for not dying. Once the food is surrounded, it will be attacked from all angles. One or two people with high force. It's completely irresistible. Jin Xiuhui suddenly said loudly, "Let's separate here. You must arrive in time." Xiao Budong's eyes firmly agreed. Quickly jumped off the galloping steed and left alone. Kim Xiuhui already has a detailed battle plan. This is thanks to the use of spoiler skills. Get intelligence ahead of time. 2 horses step on auspicious clouds. If there is a road, you run, and if you don't have a road, you will fly. Running day and night without sleep. No eating, no drinking, no urine. When I arrived at the territory, I only sweated a few drops. The atmosphere does not take a breath. The 2 of them stood on their own territory. Look at the scattered flying yellow in the air. Jin Xiuhui's heart is a stone to the ground. A farmer who is toiling in the field at this time. I found that there were more and more flying yellows in the air. One by one, they're curious. Jin Xiuhui yelled beside him, stunned. "What are you doing? Hurry home and hide. Give me another lid. To be the largest." The commentary in the next episode is even more exciting. Don't forget to check it out. Do you know how terrifying the Flying Yellow group is? The Flying Yellow group crosses the Chibi Cliff and does not grow a single inch of grass for thousands of miles. They are almost unnervable. Even the strong orcs are their meal. Shortly after Kim Xiuhui and Haver arrived at the territory, a large number of flying yellow monsters poured into the territory in droves. In this genocide-style, indiscriminate attack, the Baron's mansion was not spared. The maid suddenly screamed. I saw a huge one, a flying yellow pavilion with a hard body. It is like a javelin under flight acceleration. It easily smashed the window and rushed into the bottom of the house. After the flying yellow monster landed, showing the fangs of fame, and the strange laughter pattern waves, high-frequency tremolo is emitted in front of the star-red nails in both eyes. The maid is like looking at the food. Flying Yellow Crown slowly crawled towards the feast in front of him. When he is in attack range, Hoji jumped up and pounced on the food in front of him. The maid was terrified. He closed his eyes and screamed. Moment of truth. The Baroness picked up her chair and slapped the yellow monster to death. Rescue the maid. It's just a blink of an eye. More flying yellow monsters smashed through windows and poured into the bottom of the house. Madame caught the maid trembling. A trembling hand clenched him firmly. Encourage him to be brave and not to be afraid. I didn't pay attention to the flying yellow monster that had just entered. They quickly took the road and fled. The 2 of them ran quickly down the hallway. Suddenly looked out through the window. I saw the overwhelming flying yellow. The flock shrouded over the territory, dense as far as the eye can see. Each one is with. The flying yellow monster that was killed just now is about the same size. Madame's heart was shared. Terror gradually took over. The beautiful face was then covered with a cloud of smoke. At this time, the Baron had a long sword in his hand. Rush out of the corner of the hallway, said anxiously to Madame, "We have to go and join Bayern and the soldiers." The Baron led the 2 ladies to the door. As he struggled to push open the door, but I saw a terrible scene. The courtyard is full of flying yellow crowns. Flowers and trees are frantically gnawed. Bucket-thick trees, under the gnawing of a few flying yellow monsters, at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, there was only one branch left. This kind of monster is almost to the point of being unrealistic. Even hard granite walls. They were all relentlessly bitten. The flying yellow monster noticed that 3 living people suddenly appeared in front of him. The eyes showed a star-red bloodlight. Hunger greedily gazes at these delicacy. At this moment, the knight of the Shojuin of the territory Bayern. It's rushing forward. Run and call out in the crowd of flying yellows. Have all the soldiers assemble at the bottom of the Baron's house, and loudly stressed to the soldiers that they should never be left alone. At this moment, there was a sudden anxious roar next to him. A resident is being attacked by a flying yellow monster, and the flying yellow monster on the side is also rushing towards him. I saw a critical moment, but the Baron's enemies were already in sight. As a guardian knight, protecting the main army is his first duty. Byron are caught in a dilemma. Then he remembered the Baron's entrustment to him. I hope it doesn't matter the territory, what kind of danger you are into. Then me. You'll have to protect the people of your territory first. I think lords and knights exist only for the inhabitants of the realm. The Baron's sincere entrustment knocked through the fog in his heart like a twilight drum dust, although the heart is dripping blood. But Byron made a decisive choice. With a single sword, he severed the head of the yellow monster, saved the residents of the turtle in time. He also slaughtered the other black and yellow monsters on the inhabitants. Then he obeyed the Baron's instructions to him to protect the people, looked at the dense, flying yellow monsters in front of him. I couldn't help but feel a sense of weakness all over my body, but still decisively attached the inhabitants to their back. Thankfully, the orc warriors joined the fray. The hard body of the flying yellow monster slammed in front of the muscles. Fragile as a paper pot, Aroshir led the orc warriors to fight their way out. Arrived at the Baron's house in time. Saved the Baroness in time. Orc warriors after Bengiden. At the call of Arash, in order to protect the oath he once made to Jin Xiuhui. Even if you lose your life, you won't back down. Bodybuilders are like steel walls. Zhang Ninju and his wife guarded behind him. Born in the wilderness, they are well aware. How bitter is a group of flying yellows of this size? This monster is unmistakable. Even for the sake of the father, they will kill each other. They don't have any emotion. Didn't know about the pain either. It is only known that destruction is destruction. Whenever the flying yellow group hits, a happy home that was originally full of life. After the Fei Huang group leaves, only the colorful flying yellow monsters of Chibi will be left. Under the madness, people are losing their resistance one after another. Women are weak. If you are a mother, you are strong. Even if the mother has no power to resist, also protect the child in your arms. Maybe it's the silent prayer in the midst of crying that touches life. Perhaps it is the flying yellow that is subject to the laws of nature. Every crazy, raging flying yellow. It stops so abruptly. Listen as if you were being called to something. Immediately afterward, a series of vibration patterns rose into the sky. Merge into Chongyun, Jin Xiuhui's high-pitched and loud scolding. With the majesty drifting far away, there was a rhythmic sound of metal crashing from the sluts. I saw Haver raise the long sword in his hand high. Wheel aids smashed into the prototype metal object in Jin Xiuhui's hand. A loud sound shook the air, and it spread far away. Jin Xiuhui yelled and said, "How about smashing it?" The sound of the lid of the pot doesn't make you want to move. As soon as the words fell, Haver smashed it again with a heavy blow. This time it's louder than just now. The two rode their horses on the territory. Keep repeating the above admiration. The sound of heavy metal crashing attracted the attention of the flying yellow monster. The more the flying yellow monster is, the more dramatic it is. Like a long dragon. A man chasing the voice along some kind of trajectory. When the clouds that block the sun are far away, warm sunlight shines on the ground. Everyone was amazed to find that they had been rescued. The turnaround came so suddenly. The barons were still in shock. But it was certain that Lloyd saved them. Because of the voice that came from afar. They are all too familiar. All the flying yellow monsters flew towards the two of them. Just think about how scary it is. Jin Xiuhui was so frightened that he was about to pee. If this is surrounded, the bones will be at a loss. Haver, on the other hand, was calm and unafraid. The whole body exudes a heroic spirit of firm confidence. Haver took the moment to look back and said, "Young master, the flying yellow group was chasing me along some kind of trajectory." Jin Xiuhui said loudly, "Great. We're running around the territory like this. Pull a wave at the end." The two rode their horses in front. The flying yellow group chased after the naked sun not far behind. Jin Xiuhui hopes to attract as many Feihuang Pavilion as possible. Tell Haver to hit the lid harder. Haver will be on the move. Then he turned around, hit hard. Almost didn't smash Jin Xiuhui's overnight dinner. Jin Xiuhui looked at Haver angrily and said, "Stinky boy, you're too ruthless. Why are you so happy?" Haver was united in his heart. Happy to say, "I'm going to keep knocking." Kim Xiuhui struggled to resist the heavy blows of each season. My heart gradually settled down. Originally, he got this method from the novel. It is not certain whether it is painful or not. Now it seems that the plan you have set is completely feasible. Kim told Haver that he couldn't let go just yet. They also had to go to the rescue of Laknabalai. This sentence shocked Haver. He didn't expect the young master to be at such a critical moment. Still, do not forget about the rescue of neighbors. The evaluation of Jin Xiuhui in my heart has improved again. The system prompts suddenly. Haver's pride in you has increased by 3 points. You get 54.2 horses. Jin Xiuhui's true thoughts are like this. Lao Tzu can't afford to lose his water bill income. That's a chicken that lays golden eggs. The commentary in the next episode is even more exciting. Don't forget to check it out. If you do a good deed, you have to leave a name. Those who don't leave a name are fools. This motto subverts the perception of the onlooker. The number of the flying yellow monster horde is extremely large. Only the food of the territory of Front Lao. It simply does not satisfy the hunger in their bellies. The Lakna territory is likewise their relief. The granary of hunger. The Lakna territory is located in the northern side of the territory of Front Lao. The two territories are certainly bordered by the Maresvish. It has been a good neighbor for many years. But not long ago, a conflict broke out over water issues. Jin Xiuhui almost died at the hands of the other party. Later, Jin Xiuhui's honest and kind character, convinced to voluntarily pay high water bills. It became Kim Xiuhui's ATM. The storyline is detailed in episodes 28 to 30. Viscount Lackner at this time is holding his head alone. All around are full of hungry, flying yellow crowns. The dignified Viscount didn't even have a helper by his side. It can be seen that his character and blessing. Baron Lantrau is a natural difference. Just when he was at a loss, the sound of heavy metal crashing can be heard forever. Caught his attention. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. The mighty figure of the people of Jinhar is on horseback. Under the crotch, 2 horses rammed through the wooden partition wall. Break into the room where Lord Lacknaz is. Lord Racknaz collapsed to the ground in fright. Glancing back at the visitor. It's okay not to look at it. Now recognizable as Lloyd. That horrible demon. Let his helpless little heart squeeze even tighter. Who knew that Jin Xiuhui opened his mouth and said after meeting, "Remember to pay the water bill on time." The expression is fierce and cruel. Wisps of white smoke tossed in his mouth, like a demon urging out of the abyss of hell. This face almost became a Viscount. Nightmare every night. Every time I think about it, I wake up from my sleep. Now it's in front of you. Frightened, he peed his pants directly. I kept shouting in my heart, I would rather face the flying yellow monster. I don't want to see him. The people of Jinhao didn't have time to pay attention to the Viscount's feelings. Jin Xiuhui held the lid of the pot. Smash into obstacles in front of you. There was a heavy clang. The sound was like being struck hard by Haver's sword. Far spread. The people of Jinhar did not dare to stay for a moment. It galloped out of its horse in the blink of an eye. Luckner thought that the great demon had come to ask for his life. Now I'm confused. The lower part of the crotch. The 37-degree coffee is brewed for both of them. But they were gone. But suddenly, a long dragon that was not made up of crowns. From a distance of less than half a meter above his head, it roared like a demon. The wind blowing up between the caves resembles a small typhoon. Rage in the room. Scared Lakhnavan still, for fear of attracting the attention of these monsters. I can't hold on to my small body for even a second. The two rushed from the inside of the house to the outside. Haver asked the young master curiously. Our battle plan was to utilize buildings. Let them come together. Jin Xiuhui said with a faint look in his eyes. Not at all. Then he said with a gentle and kind smile. It's been a long time since I've seen that stupid shortage. Strange missing. I just came here to play him. Ha, he's so cool. Kim Xiuhui's answer. Let the always calm, hearted out life. The face was gloomy. I thought with hatred in my heart, is the young master crazy? We've both been chased into treasures. Maybe you'll burp in the next second. He was still in the mood to play. The two of them kept tapping the lever regularly. Weave your way through the residential areas of Rachna territory. Spread the sound far away. A large number of scattered, flying yellow monsters were attracted. Join the team that is chasing the sounds. Xian Xiuhui kept shouting his name loudly. Im Shoid Vlimban Tsrai. The bastard flying yellow monster came after me. Haver kindly reminded. Young master, save some effort. What's the use of you shouting so loudly? The flying yellow monster didn't understand it again. Kim Xiuhui maintained the posture of holding the lid of the pot in his hand. Say out loud that this guy knows anything other than fighting. I had to say my name out loud. Residents learned who saved them. The teacher taught us to do good deeds and leave our names. Lured to point Haver's face was as black as Pori. Can't help but want to chop this bastard. He finally understood going around the neighborhood over and over again. The reason for the circle. The fate of the two was hanging by a thread. Now it's like a dead soul. But after completing several advertising campaigns, the two of them carried the flying yellow dragon behind them. Run out of Lakona territory. The next destination is Marez Vikeni. That would be the final battlefield in Jin Xiuhui's plan. At this time, there was a sudden and dramatic change ahead. He couldn't help but feel a dust in his heart. It turned out to be in the direction they were heading. Another huge group of flying yellow pavilion appeared. Moment was flying towards them. Seeing that he was about to chase after the rear, Fei Huang. Long dragon formation. What is? Haver hurriedly stood in front of Jin Xiuhui. Say it out loud, young master. You hold the lid diagonally over your head. Stand back a bit. Haver quickly mobilized the fighting energy in his body and cover it with a full seat. The fitness green vindictive lightsaber was held high, precise and fast chopping. In the blink of an eye, it swept through the flying yellow group. The body of the flying yellow monster at the same time. Vulnerable as a piece of paper in front of the fighting ship. Anything that is within the reach of the sword. The cold blade brought up basins of green blood. Blockers are invincible. The shattered limbs of the flying yellow monster rained down like drops. Jin Xiuhui held the lid of the pot above his head. There was a crackling sound. Green blood splattered in all directions. Jin Xiuhui gritted his teeth and worked hard to persevere. Haver wielded his fighting sword to clear the way ahead. The green glow flickered continuously. The range of the blade is like that of the flying yellow monster. Jin Xiuhui followed. Hold on to the fleeting gaps. The two of them galloped on horseback, in the dead land of the flying yellow group. Kick up long plumes of smoke. Through Haver's unremitting efforts, the two of them fought their way out of the encirclement of this group of flying yellow monsters. Shake this flying yellow monster away. After the two flying yellow monsters meet, the entanglement intersects and comes together. It's like Massachusetts twisted into a strand. Together, they chased the two Jinha who ran ahead. Jin Xiuhui looked back and said, very good. They were all together. At this time, the two had reached the edge of the Marizwicken land. But it is still some distance from the location of Kim Xiuhui's plan. At this time, the warhorse under the crotch was sweating profusely. Spit has reached its limit. Can't hold it up. After all, after starting from the royal capital, ran wild for 5 days and 5 nights to come to the territory. It's never too late to rest. How could the state of the horses escape Jin Xiuhui's eyes? It's just a short distance away from reaching your destination. Now the war horse may fall at any time. Until that time, Fei Huang swarmed up. He's a complete asshole. This man is a jack of all oils. Picking up a shovel is a builder. Pick up the kettle is the farmer. Pick up the sword is a knight. Under the pressure of the bastard boss, he was finally promoted to mount. Jin Xiuhui decisively threw away the heavy lid in his hand, turning his head to Haver and shouting Haver, "Prepare your back." Jin Xiuhui came up with such a sentence for no reason. Blinded Haver. He was just about to inquire in detail. Jin Xiuhui took advantage of the fact that the two horses were in a parallel state. Shake the stool. A leap went straight behind Haver. Haver was stunned. Jin Xiuhui hugged him closely. Hands were wrapped around Haver's shoulders. Don't forget to be kind and remind you after calling the police from now on. You are the horse. Run. Haver almost didn't get his nose crooked. Ever since following the bastard young master, Lao Tzu is a knight. It became the essential oil of his hand. Now it's his crotch mount again. This product can have a face, although angry. But Haver knew that now was not the time to quarrel. Then follow the bastard. Haver also sensed that the warhorse had reached its limit. Jumped off the horse's back. Feet on the ground. Reduces its own speed by friction. Just a moment after being single. The buzz of the flying yellow group is getting closer and closer. Haver is just getting his feet on his feet. Jin Xiuhui pushed his chin against the top of his mount's head. A urging sound came from the mouth. Haver gritted his teeth in hatred. Suppress anger as much as possible. You just have to add the word, "I'm willing." Hold back, hold back. The glorious knight endured humiliation. Settle accounts with him sooner or later. Then condense the magic. A lighthouse on both legs sprang out and then accelerated and ran. Jin Xiuhui felt that the mount under his crotch was a little bumpy. Cross your legs in front of Haver's chest. The pose is sultry. Extremely. If it's not being chased by the flying yellow crowd right now. It is estimated that Haver is an enro in retrospect. Must have drowned this bastard. Even if the queen's sister is widowed, he doesn't care. The strength of the juggernaut is really not covered. Haver running at full speed. The speed is not much slower than that of a war horse. If it weren't for a bastard hanging from his body. Most of them can shake off the flying yellow group behind them. But it's because there's a bastard hanging on it. Running speed is affected. As a result, the flying yellow group chased more and more tightly. Haver has given it his all, but he was still caught up by the flying yellow monster. Refined Haoxia's little heart fluttering wildly. The cheeks were shyly buried in the Havelberg terrier. The hum of the devil's wings vibrating sounded in their ears. There is also the nodule effect that emanates from the mouth of the flying yellow monster. They gathered and opened their mouths to reveal their fangs of contention. Can't wait to pounce on the feast. Jin Xiuhui suddenly shouted a small bell. Little Hama. By this time, the two had come to the edge of the Keat. Suddenly two appeared from the canal. A behemoth that is comparable in size to Ultraman. It turned out to be a gigantic little Hama and a small bell. It's been a long time coming. The new Har people are like an agreed comparison. At the same time, jump into the pool that serves as cover. Place your body close to the bottom of your teeth. Cross your hands over your head. The huge body of the little bell jumped high. Twist your waist and turn around in midair. The tail cocks up and raises the small hole in the buttocks. When the little bell body reaches the highest point of the takeoff jump, the chasing flying yellow group was like a spear. Straight in, just when the spear magazine was inserted into the small hole. Bursting flames erupted from the small hole. The hungry flying yellow monster was in front of him. Sudden flames. Astound. There was a look of disbelief in their eyes. But it was too late. Bursting flames. instantly overwhelmed the vanguard of the flying yellow group. It's too late to struggle. It's a joke. Little Belle has been brewing for a long time with a beautiful woman's fetish. Is it so bearable? Flames burned the sky. Smoke billowed in. One by one, the roasted proteins fell in. Cadota below. Farmers taking refuge on the top of a distant hill. I smelled the smell of barbecue wafting in the wind. A few people meet and wait for the battle to end. Be sure to try the roasted yellow worms. Jin Xiuhui seized the opportunity to issue an order. Hama Jr.'s second round of wide-range attacks. I saw little Hama. The round body filled with water resists the fight. Aim your mouth at the next wave of flying yellow springs. Squirt out a strong stream of high-pressure water. The water, after being pressurized by little Hama, was terrifying. Swept through Luffy's yellow group like a water jet. Fei Huang's sturdy body is under the impact of high-pressure water currents. It's like an egg touching a stone. Shattered. Little Hama sprayed spittle after spitting to kill the flocks of flying yellow. The direction of rotation of the high-pressure water column. Walked towards the flying yellow group on the other side, under the circumference of the rapids. Some had their entire bodies shattered by the current. Some of the wings were pierced by water droplets and could not fly. Corpses rained down. After 2 successive waves of large-scale fire and water attacks. The war of annihilation is not over. Refinement how congratulated. In the third round, he wielded a shovel and used 3 explosions. Flames coalesce at the shovel head. Haver followed suit, covering his sword with fighting spirit. The Dochi's sword shone with a green light. Illuminate his handsome countenance. The two of them punched out the condensed energy at the same time. Attacked the only remaining flying yellow crown. Like 2 spears plunging into the enemy's hinterland. The feet of the energy of furious destruction twisted together. Envelop the remaining flying yellow swarm. There is only one wooden, that is to destroy to extinction. After the 2 currents of energy wiped out the flying yellow in front of them. The momentum of the strong and domineering has not diminished in the slightest. Birds soar into the sky like a triumphant. Disperse the thick clouds in the sky, revealing the obscured blue sky. 3 waves of large-scale attacks. Large swaths of the corpses of the flying yellow monsters fell down. It was as if it was raining heavily on Merezvikanti. Only a few flying yellow monsters are still struggling in the air. The mind is full of knowledge of the refinement of making money. But I didn't notice. All this drop protein is money. This should be put in the vegetable market for at least 10 yuan a caddy. Jin Xiuhui clenched his shovel and gasped. There is no aristocratic demeanor. Sit on the ground with a butt. A feeling of exhaustion fills the whole body in an instant. Then he collapsed to the ground completely relaxed. Look at Haver, on the other hand. Not only is the body tired, chivalry is also insulted by bastards. But he still maintains a chic and heroic posture. Demeanor, temperament, and perseverance, character stand tall. Haver is back to normal. Said lightly. It did wipe out most of the flying yellow, but there's still a lot left. There are at least a few thousand. How to solve it? Jin Xiuhui said lightly, don't worry about them. There are cleaners to clean up the rest of the garbage. At this moment, Xiao Budong, who had disappeared for a long time, appeared on the edge of the battlefield. Behind him, follow 300 elite warriors of the Gangsha clan, led by team leader Akush himself. These green muscular hunks hold stone spears in their hands. One by one, they are wild and unafraid. On the other side of the battlefield, there are human parts. Consists of 500 white lancers and 50 magicians. These are Her Majesty's direct forces. They line up neatly, disciplined. The entire army stood silently. Silently. Jin Xiuhui said to Haver suddenly, leave the aftermath to them. We have other things to do. Haver asked curiously what else was going on. Jin Xiuhui said solemnly, there's more than just one round of the monster domino effect. It is a fool not to take advantage of it. If you get cheap, You won't let the next 3 abuses. What's more, it's the best of both worlds. Affected by this kind of muscular guy, I can also learn and apply it alive. The cavalry captain gave the order. The white lancers obeyed. Immediately after that, all the horses raised the premise at the same time. Look up to the sky and think for a long time. The cavalryman Yushu sat in the saddle of the saddle. The formation is neat. The painting is not messed up at all. The captain raised his spear and shouted, "For the sake of His Majesty, the great king, for the territory of His Majesty, wipe them all out for me." The captain's voice just fell. The magicians around the knights. They all use fire magic. Wrap the flame around the knight's spear. The spear was burned red. Return to iron and leap into a powerful regrind weapon. After the Dharma priest is completed, the captain shouted the order for the whole army to assault. White lancers in armor, flame spear in hand, charged. The entire cavalry corps fingerprints the horseshoe. Pat of a female. It's like a frantic war machine. Prepare for a merciless strangulation. The remaining flying yellow monsters are scattered all over the place. In the hands of the cavalry, the flame spear stabs steadily and fiercely at the flying yellow monster. One shot at a time. Then I heard the sound of a sharp blade breaking through a shell, and the operation of the flying yellow monster. Under high temperature burning, the flying yellow monsters wail before dying. Feng Jinli's harshness gradually weakened to the point where it was unnaudible. Soon, each knight's spear was strung with flying yellow monsters. On the other side of the battlefield, it is the stage of a green-skinned, muscular hunk. One by one, the strong, savage orcs let out a roar of rage. In his hand, he held a wooden spear as thick as an arm. Aim the tip of the spear at the yellow monster and stab it hard. The flying yellow monster was pierced through its body and pierced into a boat. A mist of green blood scattered and splattered in all directions. Mochi was unwilling to struggle and instigate, trying to save him from a miserable end. The screams of pain of the flying yellow monster came and went together, but they can't die happily yet, because there is still room for the spear where a few more. Soon people became skilled in setting up bonfires. Place the worn skewers on the fire. Sear and bake. The constant secretion of oil drips onto the campfire. Make a scolding sound. The smell of meat soon fills the air. The orcs bared their white teeth, drooling nonstop. Desire skin muscles. The macho men started the bonfire dinner on the spot. The skewers are grilled until 5 are ripe. The orcs couldn't wait to start tasting. Tear off a large piece and put it in your mouth to chew. The meat is firm and elastic, and it is chewy. This half-cooked roasted feihong with tendons and blood. It's much more delicious than eating a corpse raw. After tasting led by the patriarch in agu, the orcs shouted in unison about high protein. This food clumps together for a long time. It's much more convenient than looking around for prey. It doesn't look like a battlefield in any way. It's simply a food granary for the orcs. At this time, the beautiful woman of the Baron's family was not shy and left. Hands quietly hidden behind their backs. Whisper to a handsome red-haired orc. That orc warrior. The red-haired orc looked back at the beautiful girl curiously. The girl brought her hands from behind her back to her chest, holding a small bright pink flower in his hand. There's also a subtle sinking on the petals. The size difference between girls and orcs is too great. Stand on tiptoe and slowly reach the flower in front of the orc. The girl's gentle voice floated in. "Thank you for protecting me just now." The red-haired orc was stunned and looked at it suddenly. Present gifts. I don't know, he's full. What the muscular brain thinks. When the orcs take the flowers. The girl shy trotted away. At this time, the orc was still in a daze. Soon, though, his cheeks began to blush. Should have understood the girl's heart for him. Orcs are known for being savage and tough. Orcs are also warriors with muscle balls. The combat effectiveness is not inferior to that of male orcs. One by one, they are domineering and domineering. Male and female orcs rejoice every time. The process of reproduction is like initiating one. A heads-up duel. An ordinary wooden bed simply can't withstand it. So the orcs will directly take the beast. The skin fluttered on the ground. Swing the ground. After a night of fierce fighting, houses are leaking everywhere and need to be repaired. I have to sigh. The beautiful female fox of the Baron's family is really brave and confident. Then, the Baron and the lady ran anxiously towards Jin Xiuhui. Haven't arrived yet. He couldn't wait to ask Lloyd out loud. Are you okay? The Baron put his hands on Jin Xiuhui's shoulders. I kept looking around him, then anxiously asked if there was any injury. Jin Xiuhui faces his father's love. Some of them are at a loss to say, as you can see. I wasn't hurt. Hear my son's answer. The Baron and the lady were relieved, hugged Kim Xiuhui tightly, and cried with joy. Both blamed their son for being too kind at the same time. I like to save people too much, completely disregarding their own safety. Jin Xiuhui felt the sincere love of his parents. My heart is full of sweetness, but I still refuse to admit it. I thought silently in my heart, I'm just preparing for retirement. It's all for myself. Suddenly, there was a laugh from the system. You don't remember being in the way. Cut off the spoilers. Jin Xiuhui is immersed in the love of his parents. How can there be any time to ignore the ridicule of the system? This sweet feeling made him secretly determined. I'll have more to do in the future, but all the burdens are worth it. For the end of the spoiler plot, please watch the video commentary episode 55. Then, once again, you'll be prompted to receive a new accolade. The strongest hunter in the pest control industry. The area of praise is Forentrau, Barony, and Lacona domain. The term of praise is 110 years. Praise provides 2 CP values. The complement effect is just a glance away. We'll be able to make all insect-type monster lines. Insects will shrink greatly and lose their combat effectiveness. A full moon hangs high in the night sky. All the yellow monsters were cleaned up by the cleaners. It was in the evening of one day. Finely trimmed, standing alone on the playground with a shovel in hand. This time behind him, the sound of heavy footsteps with steel boots on the ground sounded. A knight in armor walked towards him. Jin Xiuhui turned his head to look at the person who came after hearing the voice. It turned out to be the captain of the White Lancers, Valera D. Blanco. Although the battle is over, but he didn't shed his heavy armor. What the hell did he come to Jin Xiuhui? Uncle is an honest and upright knight, but insidious. The cunning man took advantage of the goodness in his heart. The two meet to duel with cold weapons, but the bastard threw a mischievous shot at the uncle. Uncle said lightly, "What do you have to do with me?" Jin Xiuhui performed a noble salute, then politely say thank you for coming, and thank you for stirring. Flying yellow monster plays a decisive role. Uncle said directly and decisively, "You don't have to say things against your will." As soon as I got here, I could see that the battle was basically over. We're here to clean up the battlefield. Jin Xiuhui was a little overwhelmed by being picked out in person. Hurry up and play around to ease. Claimed thanks to the addition of the White Lancers. Will be what would have taken a few weeks of work. It's cut by more than half. The uncle interrupted Jin Xiuhui's explanation at this time. Tell him bluntly that you are a technician, but to command our honorable White Lancers. I was angry at first, but I didn't wake up until I got here. The time and location of our arrival. It's all in your plans. I have to admit that you are a brilliant strategist, but my self-esteem, he is still injured. Why did you send the magician away, but left us behind? Stay at your majesty's side. Fight for your majesty. That's what we're proud of. I don't like you. I've been honest about what I'm thinking. Next, it's your turn. What do you want from us? Jin Xiuhui listened. After the uncle's statement, the evaluation of him in my heart has greatly improved. He recalled the plot from the novel. The uncle obeys the cruel orders of the Blackened Queen, a purge of the population. Haver, in order to protect innocent people, had a tough duel with the uncle. At that time, Haver had not yet broken through to the swordsman. It's just barely better than the uncle. The uncle fell in blood, but there is no fear of the dying man. And my heart was full of worry. Said to Haver before he died, I want to ask you for one thing. Let here mettest stop. Jin Xiuhui made an objective evaluation of the uncle. This is a heart that only has loyalty. A gifted warrior. Facing this kind of person, the best thing to do is to be simple and straightforward. At this moment, Jin Xiuhui made a decision in his heart. Then a confident smile spread across his face. Do you want to fight me? If I win, the White Lancers are my sapper troops. If you win, you can go straight home. This request stunned the uncle. The brain didn't turn for a while. This request was too much for his appetite. Men should be harder than each other's fists. How can there be so much nonsense? Then I said happily, it seems that you know me well. I know that I can't promise you to be an engineer. So send out the dual invitation quest directly. But there's one thing you're thinking wrong. I am your Majesty's gun. Before getting the order, they will not face the people with swords.